So we are finally ready to start our mask video. So the first thing we're going to do is make our cereal box turn into 2 pieces of cardboard. So all you need to do is cut out the tops, the bottoms, the sides, and we're drawing on this brown part of the cereal box. It'll be much easier and cleaner to paint over. So the first thing we need to do is draw the base shape of our mask, which is basically we're just going to use this top line. So we're just going to draw a U shape. This entire mask should be symmetrical, so if you want to go with a shape that's a little bit more unique, you can. Just make sure it's the same on both sides. Say you want a pointy chin or something like that. But it needs to stay pretty basic because you really don't want to have anything warping or curling or falling off like that. So I'm going to outline this with a Sharpie. You don't need to do it with a Sharpie because you're going to be able to see it. I just am doing this so that you can see it. So I don't need to cut that top part off. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And I'm going to save the extra cardboard because we're going to use them for what I call extensions, which are things that you can work on while you are waiting for me to staple your mask. So here's the basic shape. We are going to add eyes and a mouth. There's not going to be a nose that we're going to cut out of it. So our eyes are very important that they are pretty much centered on the mask, just like in normal proportion to your face. And also that they are 1.5 inches away from the edges. So here's 1.5 inches here, and if I do 1.5 inches this way here, and so this will be the edge of the eye. So I can draw kind of a basic shape for my eyes. You also don't want them too close together because you want to make sure that this area is also approximately 1.5 inches. So this is actually exactly 1.5 inches. So you can change this shape slightly, but you don't want it too big. You don't want any large areas cut out because it'll warp your mask once we add a bunch of paint and glue and things like that to it. We're going to add plenty of decorations to the background, so don't worry about that yet. The mouth can be down here. It can be smiling, frowning, whatever you want to do. You just have to make sure it's the same thing, at least 1.5 inches away from each side, and also the bottom. So if you want to do it down here. If you're doing a mouth that's giant, that's bad. Don't do that. That's way too big. This whole mask is going to fall apart. Okay, so you need something a little bit smaller. So mine's going to be pretty happy guy. And that's that. So I'm going to outline these in Sharpie just so you can see them. And you're going to need my help for the next part because it's pretty difficult to cut these out. So I'm going to use an X-Acto knife and do this for you. There's a lot of work on my part. I'm going to take a cutting mat and just make an X in here. And that X is going to help you to cut it out. If it's a little bit jagged or choppy, don't worry. We're going to cover that up with beans and paint and stuff anyway. So I like to just kind of stick my finger, whoop, careful with that, we can tape the back up there. Gently stick your finger through each of those X's that I've made. And then carefully, I like to use the biceps of my scissors, that inside part, and carefully turn the mask with one hand while you're cutting it with the other hand to cut out these areas. Like I said, it does get a little bit messy, so don't worry if it's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. I'm a little bit upset that I made this little tear in here, but it is fixable. So my scissors are always facing away from me. And just do the best you can. Mouth is the same thing. Even if it's not on your original lines, it's all going to get painted anyway. So once you are finished with that, you can begin working on any extensions. An extension can be horns at the top, it could be a nose, it could be a goatee or an extension to the chin. So that's what we're using the other cardboard for. So I'm going to use this area to make a couple horns. So basically, I'm just going to fold this in half so that it's symmetrical, and maybe I'll have my horns, draw them on here, sketch them how I want them. And same with these things. You don't want them too long and skinny, because if we cover them with beans, they're just going to fold over. So you want it to be sturdy. You want it to be a little bit short and blunt. And if I cut this, and eventually this will get stapled on right there, I've got my horns. The last thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to create a nose. So out of a piece of cardboard, I'm just going to, right here, there's my piece of cardboard. I can take a mechanical pencil or even a pen, if you have a ballpoint pen, and just draw a line down the middle of it, pressing really nice and hard. And this is scoring it. It's just preparing the cardboard. And so that's preparing the cardboard to fold on that line a little bit easier. So I'm going to glue that right in the middle for the bridge of his nose. I can do that up here if I want. I can actually do that for his eyebrows if you want to do something like that. So you can cut that out. Maybe I'll cut this and make 2 eyebrows. And that's just going to help that to give a little bit more character traits to my mask. Okay? Probably don't want him mad with a happy face. So decide how you want to do that. You can even do it like this. It doesn't have to be resembling a human. You could also make your extensions be something like ears, if you want to do that. So play around with how you want to do that. I will staple those on for you, and we'll also be using some masking tape. But I'm going to cut some slits, and we're going to give our mask some dimension. So I'm basically going to have a slit here, and a slit here. And you can do this, and when you're finished, bring it up to me and I will help you to staple them. And this is going to give it more of a 3D effect. So I have those, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And like I said, I'm going to do this part for you because it is pretty difficult. It takes a lot of staples as well. So there will be patience needed on your part. So you can already see how that's a little bit more dimensional. And I'm going to do my last one down here on the chin. And I'm not going to make it too crazy because we don't want it to be too dimensional where when we glue our beans on, it's going to come off. So a couple on each extension. And if after I staple it you have some weird pieces sticking out, you can go ahead and cut those off. That's fine. I'm not going to be mad at you.
How long did this art history take your kids?
That's Mrs. Gary interrupting me. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And if I want to add a little bit of masking tape to it, I can. Just to make sure that I like to cover up my staples so that when I go to paint it, you can't see them. So I just started off this roll of masking tape. I'm just going to go over here, cover those staples. That'll make sure it's going to stay there. And I'm going to do the same thing up top. And this will also reinforce the structure. And I'll do one more on the other side. This isn't necessary, but it does help, I think. I don't want to see staples on my mask. I don't know about you. There we go. So there's our basic mask. If you chose to do a nose or a shape like that, that's also going to be adhered using masking tape. So just take small pieces of masking tape and tape it on each side. This will all get painted over, so don't worry about seeing that. It's like a little nose bandage on him. Okay, so here's the base of my mask. The next step is to mark off some of the areas that we're going to paint. When you're choosing the areas that you mark off, you want to make sure that you are dividing it up into large sections. So I start on the end and I finish on the end. So maybe I'll mark an area like this, and this is very similar to your Picasso portraits that you just did. And maybe I'll mark another area here. Remember the symmetry. What you don't want to do is a lot of small shapes inside of it. So try to start on an edge and end on the edge. So I'm going to go down and up. Maybe I'll repeat that one. And this is just going to kind of mark off the areas that we're going to paint different colors to help you out. So maybe I'll do a rectangle coming out of here. And I can even do a triangle in these horns. So these will all be painted different colors. I'll also probably do a different color around my eyeballs to kind of accentuate them, and maybe my nose. So once you are finished with this, you are ready to paint. Good luck.